Neon Demon is directed by Nicolas Winding Refn, the man who made Drive, one of my favorite movies, and Only God Forgives, amongst others, and stars Elle Fanning, Jenna Malone, Keanu Reeves, amongst other actors, and is the story of a girl named Jessie, who's played by Elle Fanning, who comes to Los Angeles and hopes to become a model. And as soon as she enters the scene, all the designers and photographers start to notice her, and she becomes extremely popular amongst their choices, and she starts to rise up above everybody else. And that affects a few models, and this leads to our movie. Nicolas Winding Refn is a very polarizing director, as can be seen with his present movies. In Drive, while the critical response was positive, the audience response was somewhat negative, and it was a C- on CinemaScore. The movie Only God Forgives was divisive amongst critics and audiences as well. And this is one of those movies where I can see the same happening. Refn is an experimental director, so whatever he makes is bound to have polarizing remarks. While some may look at his take on things and say that is a stroke of genius, there are those who would look at his take on things and say that's pretentious, that's way too artsy for no reason. And that sometimes is what makes the gap between what could be a good movie and what could be a bad movie for some moviegoers. But aside from all those things, it is important to note one thing, and that is that the Neon Demon is just messed up as hell. He takes a simple idea that we've seen before and creates his own version of it, and makes a version out of it that is sometimes complex, and you have to listen and look at what is being shown on screen and what is being said on screen in order to understand what Refn is trying to get at. And that's where the Neon Demon succeeds a lot. It is a movie that knows exactly what it's doing, and Refn knows exactly what he is doing with the movie, which is why when he uses certain imagery to evoke certain scenes, or he gives a line of dialogue to a certain character, as he does with a few characters, especially with Keanu Reeves in a couple of scenes, you get to understand that Refn knows exactly what he's doing. He knows what he's doing, and he's very confident with it. He understands it's a subject matter that is simple, but he also has his own spin on it. And the way he portrays this dark, resting rage, which is amongst people in the fashion industry who want to reach the top, and displaying it in this violent, dark way, is something that we've seen before presented, but not exactly like this. And this movie is incredibly brave to make some of the decisions it does, and some of the characters who are made to do certain things. For example, Jenna Malone's character, and she does some things in this movie which are rather strange, and the director knows that, and he understands that the audiences, there may be a lot of people who may not be on board with some of the creative choices he's making, but Refn goes ahead with it, and that honestly is one of the bold things about him. And that leads me into another positive of this film, which is that he relies on the visuals. You need to watch to understand what the Neon Demon is trying to convey to you. It is trying to be a movie that is very different from other films, but it is also trying to be something very simple to understand, and that is where the visual storytelling sense comes in. It's only when you watch it from the point of view that it's a plot which is very simple, but the way the complexities are built around it, which is what Refn does so well in this movie, you start to understand the story he's really trying to tell, and the way he's trying to tell it. And when you start to piece it together, the simple story with a very simple premise turns into something bigger and much more complex, and that too visually, and that is again one of the biggest strengths of the Neon Demon. Aside from those things, there are positives to this movie that are present in a lot of Refn's movies. The cinematography is brilliant. This is a beautiful, visually stunning movie, and the color schemes and the way certain elements of color have been used are fantastic. Yes, there are moments where there are very bright colors used, and there are moments where there are dim colors used, and the movie does a good job in making sure what is given prominence in one scene and what is given prominence in another scene, and that is a tremendous achievement from the crew of the movie, and this cinematography is beautiful. Also, the score of this film by Cliff Martinez is one of the best scores I've heard in a long time. It's brilliant, it's very well done, and it stays with you long after you're done watching the movie. And the acting in this movie as well is also quite well done. Elle Fanning is great as this girl Jessie. She does a fine job, and you believe her character and the way she's interpreting things. Jenna Malone as Ruby is also really, really good. I did like her character a lot. And the two models, Gigi and Sarah, played by Abby Lee and Bella Heathcote, are also very interesting characters. And the character of Keanu Reeves is also very interesting as this motel owner. And there are certain things they do with all these characters that you may or may not be on board with at times, but it works very well, so you go on board with it and you believe some of the actions they're doing. And Refn makes it believable, which is what makes their acting better and which is what enhances their characters. And their characters are also done in a very visual storytelling manner. They don't explain to you, they show you exactly what it is, and it's your job to interpret from there exactly what is going on with these characters, which brings in this character development. My main issue with this movie is the final act of this movie. It's not a bad final act. It's a well done final act. It's a shocking final act. It'll leave you thinking for a few hours and maybe even days. I'm still thinking about it. But there are certain elements of this finale which feel like they dragged, where Refn seemed to have over-directed certain shots, certain moments of this finale. Do I think that's a bad thing? Yes and no. Yes, because I think that it was already done, the point was already made, and I feel like after that it was just dragging for the sake of dragging, and I feel like that should not have been done. But also no, because you kind of understand what Refn is trying to get at by exaggerating, by trying to show you the fact that there is a certain aura to the finale, which you see but you grasp slowly as the scene goes on. Even though it looks overdone, there are moments of it which you understand it. But even then, there were certain moments where I definitely thought that despite the fact that I was understanding what was going on and I could interpret it, there was definitely way too many moments in that finale which felt like they were dragged. But I'll be very honest, I still loved the movie. I still think it was a great film. It's a movie that will have a lot of polarizing reactions, and there are probably going to be people who are going to tell me that it was a trash film, that it's not a good film, and that you're reviewing nonsense. But I am going to be honest and tell you that I really like this movie. It was a well done film. It was a very well directed, very well acted, extremely beautifully shot, beautifully scored film with a great thematic message to it and great undertones to it, and it provides a smooth film all the way through. You have to think about it as the movie goes on, but it is a ride well worth taking. Yes, there are a couple of issues with the finale, but even then the movie works brilliantly. I'm gonna give the Neon Demon a 9 out of 10. Guys, what did you think of the Neon Demon? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. Let me know. A little change in the set. Nothing much, really. You guys are the best. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys later.